in the distant future, Earth was no longer just a blue planet, floating alone in the vastness of space. It had joined something much bigger, a group of planets and species, called the Galactic Concord. This alliance promised peace, trade, and shared knowledge among its members. But not everyone saw humanity as equals. Many alien races thought humans were too young, too reckless, and too eager to take risks. To them, Earth was like a child trying to sit at the grown-ups table. At the center of the Concord stood the High Council, a secretive group that made decisions affecting all member worlds. The council met behind closed doors, far away from prying eyes. Most people on Earth didn't know much about it, except that it was powerful. They trusted their leaders to represent humanity's interests, but trust can only go so far when whispers of trouble begin to spread. John Carter lived in Chicago, where he worked as a mechanic fixing old hovercars. He wasn't rich or famous, but he liked his simple life. One evening, after finishing work, he stopped by his neighbor's house to borrow some tools. Dr. Emily Ross, a brilliant physicist, always kept spare parts for him. She was kind and smart, someone John admired, even if they rarely talked beyond small talk. That night, however, her door was unlocked and the lights were off. Her home felt eerily empty. Confused, John stepped inside and called out her name. There was no answer. The place looked untouched, books neatly stacked, papers organized on her desk, but Emily was nowhere to be found. A cold feeling crept over him. Something wasn't right. When he asked around the neighborhood, others said they hadn't seen her either. It was strange, because Emily never disappeared without telling anyone. Across the country, in New York City, Laura Bennett was having a similar experience. As a journalist, she spent her days chasing stories, looking for truth in a world full of secrets. Recently, she'd noticed something odd. Several top scientists and engineers had vanished without explanation. Their families reported them missing, but authorities seemed uninterested in investigating. At first, Laura thought it might be coincidence, but the more she dug, the clearer it became that these disappearances weren't random. One day, while scrolling through social media, Laura stumbled upon a post from a worried wife. Her husband, an engineer named Daniel, had received an invitation to attend a meeting on Proxima Centauri, 4, one of the Concord's key planets. He left excitedly, saying it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Weeks later, he hadn't returned, and no one could tell his wife what happened to him. Laura reached out to the woman, hoping to learn more. What she discovered sent chills down her spine. The invitations came from the High Council itself. Each scientist invited had expertise in fields like energy production, climate engineering, or advanced robotics. Why would the council need so many human experts? And why were they disappearing afterward? Laura knew she was onto something big, but she couldn't piece it together alone. She decided to call her childhood friend, Alex Turner, who lived in Seattle. Alex was a tech genius who could hack into almost anything. If there were answers hidden in digital files or encrypted messages, he'd find them. Meanwhile, back in Chicago, John couldn't shake the feeling that Emily's disappearance was connected to the same mystery. He started paying closer attention to news reports and online forums. Slowly, patterns emerged. People all over the world were talking about loved ones vanishing under similar circumstances. Some claimed their relatives had been approached by strangers wearing uniforms with unfamiliar symbols. Others mentioned cryptic letters arriving in the mail, inviting recipients to serve the greater good. John realized he needed help. He remembered reading about a secret organization rumored to exist within Earth's government, an intelligence network designed to monitor alien activity. If such a group really existed, maybe they could explain what was happening. Determined to get answers, John began searching for clues. Little did he know, his journey would lead him straight into the heart of danger and reveal truths that could change everything humanity thought it knew about its place in the galaxy. Laura sat at her desk in her small New York apartment, staring at the screen of her laptop. The glow of the monitor lit up her face as she scrolled through pages of encrypted messages and strange symbols. She had spent hours trying to make sense of the data, but it was like solving a puzzle with half the pieces missing. Frustrated, she leaned back in her chair and sighed. This was too big for her to handle alone. She needed Alex. Alex Turner lived in Seattle, where he worked as a programmer for a tech company. To most people, he seemed like an ordinary guy who spent his days coding and drinking coffee. But Laura knew better. Alex had always been gifted with computers, almost unnaturally. So, when they were kids, he'd hacked into their school's grading system just to prove he could, and quickly covered his tracks before anyone noticed. Now, years later, Laura hoped his skills could help her crack whatever secrets were hidden in these files. She sent him a quick message. "I need your help. It's urgent." Within minutes, Alex replied, asking her to send over everything she had. By the time their video call connected, Alex was already poring over the documents Laura had forwarded. His brow furrowed as he analyzed the patterns, muttering to himself about algorithms and ciphers. After what felt like an eternity, he finally spoke. "This is serious," he said, his voice low and tense. "These messages mention something called Project Eclipse. I don't know exactly what it is yet, but it sounds bad." Back in Chicago, John Carter couldn't stop thinking about Emily. Her disappearance gnawed at him, especially since he'd heard about other scientists vanishing under similar circumstances. One evening, while tinkering with a broken hovercar in his garage, he received a notification on his personal communicator, a device everyone used to stay connected across the globe. It was a local news alert. Another scientist had gone missing. This time, it was Dr. Michael Dawson, a leading expert in climate engineering. The report included details about how Dawson had recently attended a conference hosted by the Galactic Concord. Something clicked in John's mind. Emily had also been invited to a summit not long before she vanished. He decided to dig deeper. Using his communicator, he searched for any information about upcoming events involving the High Council. That's when he found it, an announcement for a major gathering on Proxima Centauri 4. Prominent human scientists and engineers were listed as attendees. John's heart raced. Could this be where Emily and the others had gone? And if so, why hadn't they come back? Determined to find out more, John reached out to some old contacts from his days working at a government repair facility. One of them, a man named Ryan, agreed to meet him at a quiet diner on the outskirts of the city. Over cups of strong coffee, Ryan confirmed John's suspicions. "There's talk," Ryan whispered, glancing around to make sure no one was listening. "Some say the council isn't playing fair. They're using humans to do their dirty work, but nobody knows exactly what for." John left the diner feeling uneasy, but resolved. If Ryan was right, then Emily might still be alive and in trouble. He needed to get to Proxima Centauri 4 somehow, even though traveling to another planet was far beyond anything he'd ever done before. Meanwhile, Laura and Alex made progress decoding the intercepted messages. Buried within the jumble of alien languages and technical jargon was a chilling revelation. Project Eclipse wasn't just a scientific initiative. It involved plans to alter Earth's environment on a massive scale. Laura's stomach churned as she read the fragmented details. Terraforming, that's what it sounded like, but not to benefit humanity, to prepare the planet for someone else. "We have to tell someone," Laura said, turning to Alex. "The public needs to know." Alex shook his head. "And risk being silenced? Whoever's behind this has power. We can't imagine. We need proof, solid evidence that can't be ignored." As the two friends debated their next move, John was already making plans of his own. He didn't care about politics or alien conspiracies. All he cared about was finding Emily. Little did he know, his decision to act would bring him closer to uncovering the truth than anyone else. For now, though, the pieces of the puzzle were scattered, waiting for someone brave enough to put them together. Deep beneath the surface of Earth's oceans, hidden from prying eyes, A network of advanced listening devices floated silently in the dark waters. These machines were part of Echo, humanity's secret weapon against the unknown. Designed to intercept alien communications, Echo had been operational for years, quietly gathering intelligence that most people would never know existed. Rachel Monroe, a former Navy officer turned intelligence operative, was one of the few who worked with the system. Rachel sat in a dimly lit control room aboard an underwater station, her fingers flying across a keyboard as lines of alien text scrolled across multiple screens. Her job was to decode and analyze intercepted messages, searching for anything that might threaten Earth. Lately, though, her work had taken on a new urgency. Reports of missing scientists and engineers had reached her team, and they suspected a connection to the High Council. When Laura and Alex sent over their decrypted files about Project Eclipse, Rachel knew she had found the smoking gun. The data was alarming, according to the intercepted transmissions. Project Eclipse wasn't just about studying Earth, it was a plan to change it completely. The Council intended to use advanced technology to terraform the planet, making it suitable for another alien species while rendering it uninhabitable for humans. The timeline was tight. The operation was set to begin within weeks. Rachel felt a chill run down her spine. If this plan succeeded, billions of lives would be at risk. She immediately contacted Laura and Alex, arranging a secure video call to share her findings. "This isn't just a conspiracy theory," Rachel said, her voice steady but urgent. "It's real, and if we don't stop it, humanity won't survive." She showed them maps of alien fleets positioning themselves near Earth's orbit, along with schematics of massive terraforming machines. "They're preparing to move soon. We need to act fast." Laura listened intently, her mind racing. As a journalist, she had always believed in the power of information to spark change. But this was different. Exposing the truth could put her life and the lives of everyone involved in danger. Still, she couldn't ignore what she was seeing. "We have to warn people," she said firmly. "If we can get this story out, maybe we can rally enough support to fight back." Alex nodded, though his expression was grim. "It won't be easy. The Council has allies everywhere, including on Earth. If we go public too soon, they'll shut us down before we even start." He suggested creating a digital trail that couldn't be erased away to ensure the evidence would reach the public even if they were silenced. It was risky, but it might be their only chance. While Laura and Alex worked on spreading the word, John Carter made a bold decision. He couldn't sit idly by while Emily remained missing. After learning about the summit on Proxima Centauri 4, he realized it was his best shot at finding her. But getting there wouldn't be simple. Traveling to another planet required clearance and resources he didn't have. Determined, he turned to Ryan, the contact who had hinted at corruption within the Council. Ryan hesitated when John asked for help. "You're talking about walking into a lion's den," he warned. "If you're caught snooping around, you won't come back." Despite the risks, Ryan agreed to forge identification papers and provide John with credentials, posing as a maintenance worker assigned to service equipment during the summit. It wasn't much, but it was enough to get him through the door, as John prepared for his journey. Rachel continued monitoring the situation from her underwater station. She knew time was running out. Every intercepted message painted a clearer picture of the Council's intentions, and none of it boded well for humanity. Still, she allowed herself a flicker of hope. People like Laura, Alex, and John were fighting back in their own ways. Maybe, just maybe, their combined efforts could tip the scales in humanity's favor. For now, the pieces of the puzzle were scattered across continents and star systems. Laura typed furiously on her laptop, crafting a story that could ignite outrage. Alex hacked into secure networks, leaving breadcrumbs of evidence for others to find, and John boarded a transport ship bound for Proxima Centauri 4, clutching fake documents and a heart full of determination. None of them knew exactly how their paths would converge or whether they'd succeed, but each step brought them closer to uncovering the truth. Laura knew she was running out of time. The evidence Rachel had shared was too important to keep hidden, but publishing it outright felt like lighting a match in a room full of explosives. She needed someone powerful on her side, someone who could amplify her voice without immediately drawing the council's wrath. That's when she thought of Senator Robert Hayes. Hayes was a well-known figure in Earth's government, a smooth-talking politician with close ties to the Galactic Concord. He often spoke about humanity's bright future among the stars, painting himself as a champion for progress. But Laura wasn't so sure. His speeches always seemed carefully worded, avoiding any mention of the council's less savory actions. Something about him didn't sit right with her. Still, if anyone could help expose Project Eclipse, it might be him or so, she hoped. She requested a meeting under the guise of discussing environmental policies, knowing Hayes wouldn't refuse an interview request from a respected journalist. When they finally sat down in his sleek office overlooking Washington, D.C., Laura came prepared. She laid out the basics of what she and Alex had uncovered: the missing scientists, the intercepted messages, and the looming threat of terraforming. At first, Hayes listened intently, nodding along as if he were genuinely concerned. But then his expression shifted just slightly and Laura noticed it. "This is quite serious," Hayes said, leaning back in his chair. His tone was calm, almost dismissive. "But you must understand, these are sensitive matters. Accusing the High Council without concrete proof could destabilize our position in the Concord." Laura pressed harder. "With all due respect, Senator, we do have proof. We've decoded communications directly tied to Project Eclipse. If we don't act now, Earth will become uninhabitable for humans." She slid a folder across the desk, containing summaries of the intercepted data. Hayes glanced at it briefly before pushing it aside. "I'll look into this," he promised, though his voice lacked conviction. "But I urge you to tread carefully. You're playing with forces far beyond your understanding." The warning hung in the air like smoke, lingering long after their meeting ended. Back at her apartment, Laura replayed the conversation in her mind. Hayes hadn't denied the allegations. He'd dodged them. Worse, his vague threats suggested he might already know about Project Eclipse. Was he involved? She couldn't prove it yet, but her gut told her she was onto something. She called Alex to share her suspicions. "He's hiding something," Laura said, pacing her living room. "I don't think he's going to help us." Alex frowned. "If Hayes is working with the council, he could make things worse for us. We need to be careful how we handle this." Meanwhile, John Carter arrived at the spaceport, his forged credentials tucked safely in his pocket. The transport ship bound for Proxima Centauri IV loomed ahead, its metallic hull gleaming under artificial lights. Boarding felt surreal. John had never left Earth before, let alone traveled to another planet. As he stepped onto the vessel, he reminded himself why he was doing this for Emily, and for everyone else who might be in danger. The journey took several days, during which John kept mostly to himself. He spent hours studying the layout of the summit facility, memorizing blueprints provided by Ryan. The more he learned, the clearer it became that security would be tight. Getting close to the council members or finding Emily wouldn't be easy, but John had always been resourceful, and he trusted his instincts to guide him. On Proxima Centauri 4, the stage was set. Diplomats, scientists, and engineers gathered in a grand hall, exchanging pleasantries while alien officials observed silently from above. John blended into the background, posing as part of the maintenance crew tasked with ensuring everything ran smoothly. From his vantage point, he overheard snippets of conversations, talk of final preparations, and inevitable changes. Each word sent a shiver down his spine. Far away, on Earth, Rachel monitored developments closely. Her team intercepted new transmissions confirming the Council's timeline. Project Eclipse would begin sooner than expected. Panic bubbled beneath her composed exterior, but she forced herself to focus. Humanity's survival depended on stopping the Council, and every second counted. Unbeknownst to each other, Laura, Alex, John, and Rachel moved forward, driven by a shared determination to uncover the truth. They were pieces of a puzzle slowly coming together, unaware of how their efforts would intersect, or whether they'd succeed in time. John Carter adjusted the tool belt around his waist as he walked through the gleaming corridors of the summit facility on Proxima Centauri IV. The air smelled sterile, like a hospital mixed with something metallic, and the hum of advanced technology filled the silence. He kept his head down, pretending to inspect panels and wiring, but his eyes darted everywhere, taking in every detail. Alien officials moved past him without a second glance, their towering forms and strange features making him feel small and out of place. He had one goal: find Emily Ross, or at least figure out why she'd disappeared. But the deeper he ventured into the facility, the more uneasy he felt. The council members spoke in hushed tones, using words that sounded cryptic even when translated by his communicator. Phrases like final phase and irreversible adjustments echoed in his mind. Whatever Project Eclipse was, it was close to happening. One evening, while checking a ventilation system near the main conference hall, John overheard a heated argument between two alien delegates. One of them, Ambassador Cale Vorn, stood out. Unlike the others, who radiated arrogance, Vorn seemed troubled, his voice low but sharp. "This is not justice," he said, his tone firm. "We swore to protect all species, not destroy them for our gain." The other delegate dismissed him with a wave of his hand. "Do not be naive, Vorn. Humanity cannot adapt quickly enough to coexist. This is the only way." John froze. His heart pounded as the pieces clicked together. The Council wasn't just planning to terraform Earth, they were doing it because they thought humans couldn't keep up. It wasn't about helping humanity. It was about replacing it. Anger surged through him, but he forced himself to stay calm. He needed proof, something undeniable, that could expose their plans. Later that night, John decided to take a risk. Using the access codes Ryan had provided, he slipped into a restricted area where data archives were stored. The room was dimly lit, rows of glowing screens displaying endless streams of information. John didn't have time to sift through everything, so he plugged a small device into the main terminal, a gadget Alex had sent him before he left Earth. Within minutes, the device copied critical files onto a secure drive. As he worked, John heard footsteps approaching. Panicking, he ducked behind a console, holding his breath as an alien guard entered the room. The guard paused, scanning the area suspiciously, then turned and left. John exhaled slowly, his hands trembling. He finished downloading the files and hurried back to his quarters, clutching the drive tightly. Back on Earth, Laura and Alex were working tirelessly to spread awareness. They knew exposing Project Eclipse meant reaching as many people as possible before the Council acted. Laura wrote a detailed article summarizing what they had uncovered, careful to include quotes from intercepted messages and technical details Rachel had shared. She titled it simply, "The High Council's Plan to Destroy Earth." Before publishing, she encrypted copies of the story and uploaded them to multiple platforms, ensuring it would survive even if the original was deleted. Alex hacked into public communication networks, leaving digital breadcrumbs that pointed to Laura's article. He also created a viral video explaining the situation in simple terms, hoping to reach those who wouldn't read a lengthy report. By morning, the story began circulating online, sparking outrage among readers. People demanded answers, flooding social media with questions and accusations. Rachel watched the growing reaction from her underwater station. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel a flicker of hope. Public pressure might force the council to delay its plans or at least create chaos within their ranks. She contacted Laura to update her on new intelligence. The council knows we're on to them, Rachel said. They've increased security around key locations. Be ready for anything. Laura nodded grimly. We've lit a fire. Now we need to make sure it burns bright enough to stop them. Unbeknownst to both of them, John had already taken the first step toward unraveling the council's conspiracy. As dawn broke over Proxima Centauri 4, he reviewed the stolen files, searching for clues about Emily's whereabouts. Among the documents, he found a list of names including hers. Next to each name was a location deep within the facility. His stomach churned as he realized what it meant. The missing scientists weren't just gone, they were prisoners. Being forced to work on Project Eclipse, John clenched his fists. He had come here looking for answers, but now he had a mission. If he could free Emily and the others, maybe they could help stop the council once and for all.
The council chambers on Nexus Prime had never been so loud. 12 different alien species were all talking at once, their voices mixing into a chaos of sounds. Some spoke in clicks and whistles. Others used electronic tones. A few made sounds, like breaking rocks. High Chancellor Mordeth stood at the center of the great round room. He was tall and thin, covered in black armor that looked like insect shells. His 4 arms waved in the air as he tried to get control of the meeting. Behind his helmet, 6 red eyes glowed with anger. Silence, Mordeth's voice boomed through. Speakers built into the walls. We will discuss this like civilized beings, not like animals. The noise died down. 12 council members turned to look at Zixthara, who stood in a beam of light at the center of the room. The Veltai ambassador had just finished telling them about the humans. The crystal being's body was dim with shame. "Tell us again," said a voice like flowing water. It came from Depth Mari Ambassador Coral Song, whose blue-green body floated in a tank of liquid. "The humans said what exactly? They declined our offer," Zixthara repeated. "They used the words, 'We respectfully decline,' and then asked us to leave." The chamber erupted again. A machine voice cut through the noise. "Probability analysis shows this is impossible," said Protocol 7, the artificial intelligence that spoke for the machine collective. "No species has ever refused council membership. Error in translation programs detected." "There was no error," Zixthara said. "I spoke their language perfectly. They understood our offer. They chose to refuse." Ambassador Helen Carter sat in the human section of the chamber. She was the only human who had ever seen this place. Helen was older, with white hair and lines around her eyes from years of studying alien languages. She had been on Nexus Prime for 6 months, trying to learn about the Council. Helen had tried to warn Earth about what was coming. She had sent message after message explaining how the Council worked. They would make an offer that sounded good, but was really a trap. Any species that said yes would slowly lose their freedom until they became slaves. But Helen had also learned something else. She had studied the history of every council member species. All of them had been weak when the EEA Council first arrived. Their worlds were dying, or they had just lost terrible wars, or diseases had killed most of their people. The Council always chose species that had no choice but to say yes. Humans were different. Earth was strong. The colonies were growing. Human technology was advancing fast. Humans had choices, and they had chosen to say no. "This changes everything," Helen said quietly. The Veltai Council member turned toward her. "What did you say, human?" Helen stood up. All 12 alien species looked at her. She was the only human in a room full of beings who could destroy her planet with a thought. But she was not afraid. "I said this changes everything," Helen repeated, louder this time. "For 3,000 years, the Council has never been refused. That is because you only make your offer to species that are desperate. You wait until they are weak and dying, then you show up like saviors. Of course they say yes. They have no choice. We offer protection and guidance to primitive species, Mordeth said. We bring peace to the galaxy. You bring slavery, Helen said. I have read your records. I know what happened to every species in this room. The Veltai were freezing to death when you found them. Their sun was dying. The Depth Mari were fighting a civil war that had lasted for centuries. The Skar-Rathi had just been invaded by the Hive Collective. She pointed at each council member as she spoke. Every single one of you joined the council because you were desperate. None of you had a real choice. Humans do have a choice, and we choose freedom. The chamber fell silent. Helen could hear her own heart beating. She had just accused the most powerful beings in the galaxy of being slavers. They could kill her, or worse. Instead, something unexpected happened. In the Skar-Rathi section, Ambassador Scalebearer began to laugh. It sounded like rocks falling down a mountain. Other council members turned to stare at the reptilian being. The human speaks truth, Scalebearer said. We were dying when the council came. We had no choice but to accept their terms. Now look at us. We serve the council, but we do not rule ourselves. You rule your homeworld, Mordeth said quickly. We rule nothing, Scalebearer replied. The council tells us what laws to make. The council tells us what technology we can use. The council tells us which planets we can visit. We are pets with fancy titles. Other council members began to shift uncomfortably. Helen saw that she had started something dangerous. For the first time in thousands of years, council members were questioning their place in the galactic order. A new voice joined the conversation. It came from the youngest council member, a bird-like creature called Swiftwing from the Aryan Republic. If humans can refuse the council, what does that mean for the rest of us? Can we also refuse? You are already council members, Protocol 7 said. Your contracts cannot be broken. What if we want to break them? Swiftwing asked. The chamber erupted again. This time the voices sounded different. Instead of anger, Helen heard something else. Hope, fear, confusion. The council members were asking questions they had never dared to ask before. Mordeth slammed his 4 fists on his speaking platform. Enough! We are not here to debate old agreements. We are here to decide what to do about the human problem. It is not a problem, Helen said. It is an opportunity. Humans are offering something the council has never offered. True partnership, equal treatment, fair trade, no slavery disguised as protection. Humans are primitive, said another council member. They fight wars among themselves. They pollute their planet. They create weapons of mass destruction. And yet they unified their world, Helen said. They stopped fighting each other and started working together. They cleaned up their planet. They turned their weapons into tools for building instead of destroying. They did all of this without the council's help. She looked around the chamber. Every species here needed the council to save them. Humans saved themselves. Maybe it is time to learn from them instead of trying to conquer them. The arguments went on for hours. Some council members wanted to send a fleet to destroy Earth immediately. Others wanted to try negotiating again. A few quietly suggested that maybe the humans had a point. Finally, Mordeth called for a vote. The council will give the humans one final chance. We will send our best negotiator to Earth. If the humans refuse again, we will use force. The vote was close. 7 species voted yes, 5 voted no. Helen was not allowed to vote. As the council members filed out of the chamber, Scalebearer approached Helen. The reptilian being looked around to make sure no one was listening, then spoke quietly. Your people have done something incredible, Scalebearer said. They have shown the galaxy that the council can be refused. Whether they survive or not, they have already won a victory. Helen nodded. I just hope it is not their last victory. It will not be, Scalebearer said. Word of this is already spreading to the younger species, the ones the council has not yet approached. They will remember that humans said no. Some of them will say no as well. As Helen walked back to her quarters, she sent an encrypted message to Earth. It was short but important. Council is sending their best negotiator. This is your last chance to change your mind. They are scared of you. Stay strong. The alien ship that arrived at Earth's moon was different from the first one. This one looked like it was made of flowing silver metal that moved like liquid. It was smaller than the crystal ship, but somehow felt more dangerous. The ship landed at Luna Base without asking for permission. Commander Rick Barnes watched the ship land through the observation deck windows. Rick was a big man with thick arms and a beard that was starting to turn gray. He had been running Luna Base for 5 years. Nothing surprised him anymore, or so he thought. "Sir," said Lieutenant Amy Foster, his communications officer, "the alien is asking to meet with our senior commander. It says it comes in peace." Rick laughed. "They all say that. Tell it I will meet with it in conference room 3. Make sure the room is recording everything." The alien that stepped out of the silver ship was unlike anything humans had seen before. It looked almost human, but its skin was pale blue and seemed to glow from inside. It had no hair and large black eyes that took up most of its face. When it moved, Rick felt a strange calm wash over him. "I am Whisper of Stars," the alien said. Its voice was soft and musical. "I come from the Sitheri people. I am here to help your species avoid a terrible mistake." Rick sat down across from the alien. Dr. Kate Williams joined them. Kate was Earth's leading expert on alien psychology, a thin woman with sharp eyes who had studied every piece of information about the Galactic Council. "What mistake would that be?" Rick asked. Whisper of Stars smiled. When it did, Rick felt a warm feeling spread through his chest. The alien's presence made him want to agree with whatever it said. "Your leaders refused the Council's generous offer," Whisper of Stars said. "This was done in anger and fear. I understand these emotions. All young species feel them when they first encounter the larger galaxy." The warm feeling got stronger. Rick found himself nodding along with the alien's words. Everything it said made perfect sense. Why had humans been so afraid? The Council just wanted to help. Then Rick heard a sound that broke through the alien's influence. Dr. Williams was laughing. "That is quite a trick," Kate said, "but it does not work on all humans." Whisper of Stars turned to look at her. Its black eyes grew wider. "I do not understand." "You are trying to control our emotions," Kate explained. "You are making us feel calm and agreeable so we will do what you want. It is a form of mind control." The alien looked confused. "I am simply helping you overcome your primitive fear responses. All species require this assistance when first joining the galactic community." Rick felt the warm feeling fade away. As it did, he realized what had almost happened. The alien had been inside his head, making him think thoughts that were not his own. Anger replaced the artificial calm. "Get out of my mind," Rick said, standing up. "I cannot get out because I was never inside," Whisper of Stars said. "Your species is very strange. Most beings cannot resist our emotional guidance." Kate leaned forward. "How many species have you used this trick on?" "It is not a trick," the alien insisted. "It is a gift. We help other species make better decisions. By removing their fear and anger and hatred, we help them see the wisdom of joining the Council." "You mean you brainwash them," Rick said. Whisper of Stars stood up. The air in the room seemed to shimmer. Rick felt a pressure in his head, like someone pushing against his thoughts. The alien was trying harder now, putting more power into its mental attack. Rick started laughing. The pressure felt like a gentle breeze against a mountain. It had no effect on him at all. "This is impossible," Whisper of Stars said. Its musical voice now sounded strained. "No species can resist our influence completely." Kate smiled. "Humans can." Do you want to know why? The alien nodded. Humans evolved on a world where mental strength was just as important as physical strength, Kate explained. We had to resist the influence of our own emotions, our own fears, our own doubts. We had to make hard choices even when we were afraid. We developed natural defenses against mental manipulation because we had to manipulate ourselves. She pulled up a chart on her tablet. Look at human history. We have been lying to ourselves and each other for thousands of years. We developed advertising, propaganda, psychology, and a dozen other ways to influence minds. We learned to resist these influences because we had to. A species that can resist its own politicians is not going to fall for alien mind tricks. Whisper of Stars sat back down. For the first time, it looked uncertain. But surely your leaders will be more reasonable. They will understand the consequences of continued resistance. Rick pressed a button on the table. A screen lit up, showing the face of General Paul Mitchell. Paul was commanding the Mars defense grid from his headquarters in the asteroid belt. He was a tough man with scars on his face from the colonial wars. General Mitchell, Rick said, the Council's negotiator would like to speak with you. Paul looked at the alien on his screen. Let me guess. You are here to make us an offer we cannot refuse. I am here to prevent needless suffering, Whisper of Stars said. The Council has prepared a fleet of warships. If humanity continues to refuse membership, these ships will come to your system. Your people will be forced to join the Council or be destroyed. Paul smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. How big is this fleet? Large enough to defeat any resistance you might offer. I see. Paul looked at something off-screen, then back at the alien. Let me show you something. The screen changed. Now it showed a view of space near Mars. Dozens of human warships hung in the darkness, their weapons pointed toward the edge of the solar system. Space stations bristled with missile launchers and energy weapons. Asteroid mining platforms had been converted into mobile fortresses. This is just what we have near Mars, Paul said. We have similar defenses around Earth, around our colonies, and in deep space. We have been preparing for this conversation for 50 years. Whisper of Stars stared at the screen. You knew we were coming? We have been watching the Council for decades, Rick said. We have seen what you do to other species. We have been getting ready. Kate pulled up another display. This one showed technical specifications for Council warships. We know about your crystal ships. We know about your energy weapons. We know about your FTL drives. Most importantly, we know about your weaknesses. The alien's blue skin grew paler. How do you know these things? The same way we know about your mind control. Powers, Paul said from the screen. We study our enemies. We learn their secrets. We prepare for war. Rick leaned back in his chair. Here is what is going to happen. You are going to go back to the Council and tell them that humans reject their offer. Again, you are going to tell them that if they send a fleet to our system, we will destroy it. You are going to tell them that we know about the other species that want to leave the Council, and we are ready to help them. This is madness, Whisper of Stars said. You cannot defeat the entire Council. Maybe not, Kate said, but we can. Make them pay such a high price for victory that it will not be worth it. And while they are busy fighting us, other species will have time to break free. Paul's voice came from the screen again. Tell the Council they have a choice. They can. Leave us alone and we will leave them alone. Or they can start a war that will tear the galaxy apart. Whisper of Stars stood up slowly. The alien looked older somehow, as if the weight of what it had learned was aging it in real time. I will deliver your message, it said. But you should know that the Council has never backed down from a challenge. Neither have we, Rick said. As the alien walked toward the door, Kate called out one more time. Tell the Council something else. Tell them that humanity is offering a different choice to any species that wants it. True independence real freedom, equal partnership instead of slavery. Whisper of Stars stopped at the door. And if other species choose your way instead of the Council's way? Rick smiled. Then the galaxy becomes a much more interesting place. After the alien left, Rick and Kate watched its silver ship take off from Luna Base. Paul's face was still on the screen. Do you think they will really attack us? Paul asked. Yes, Kate said, but I do not think they will win. The Council has never faced an enemy that could not be controlled or intimidated, Rick added. They are about to learn what happens when they pick a fight with humans. As the silver ship disappeared into space, carrying humanity's second refusal to the stars, Rick sent a message to every human colony and outpost. It was simple and direct. War is coming. Get ready.